Hello, welcome. My name is Amber and this is my channel, A Foxglove's Handiwork. Here we're all about cozy crafting. We got dirt under our fingernails and a smile on our face. Today's project is some more sewing, and it's for a project for my wedding. If you have not seen my update video, kind of where have I been, I'll link that down below. Kind of explains why I have a gap in my videos and some personal life updates, one of them being getting married. So I have had this vision of making my own hanging bunting, kind of those flags, party flags, popping some inspiration pictures here. So over the last year, I have been collecting doilies, linens that have beautiful lacy bits, more doilies, and at estate sales there's always so many, often really reasonably priced, and we live in a day and age where we're not using doilies nearly to the extent that once was, and the abundance of linens and doilies at these estate sales is pretty high. So I thought this would be a great project. And it has been. I've already started making some of the triangles. I first started out with making a template so that there was uniformity in size. And I don't even recall what the dimensions are. Pop them on the screen here. We got our triangle. And so then I used the template to craft the triangles. What some of those look like, that is my dog panting. You can hear her. We just went outside and ran around. So here is kind of an example of one. I have a whole pile. I've made quite a few already. Here's one. It's been super fun to be creative, trying to use the material, as much as the material as possible. Of course, most of these garments, linens the corners are 90-degree angles. So that kind of presented with, how do you get the lace, like the lacy edge from both sides, but this angle, whatever this, my guess is that it's 30 degrees. That's my guess. So like this one, you can see I cut down, there's a seam right down the middle, so it makes this beautiful symmetric. Some of them are very symmetric, like here. Some of them, we rocking some asymmetry. Here is one where I have this beautiful lacy bit kind of on the corner. And so to keep this lovely scalloped edge, I essentially made a dart here on either side to make that shape, that triangle. Some get quite piecemeal in a lovely collage way. Here's one that actually I need to sew this side. That's kind of been pieced together, different parts to make that triangle. Here's one. This has been a really fun project I've done with my mom and my sister in preparation for my wedding. So how I'm going to attach the triangles so that they hang is I need some sort of binding or string to attach these two. That is why I left the top part unsewn, as I am imagining it will get sewn into the binding, the string. I'm going to show you kind of the steps in my thinking of making a triangle. So I'm going to start with this doily, and what's kind of fun is to cut the doily in half so that I get a straight edge. And then I have the other straight edge to use on the top here. It doesn't quite fit all the way, but I play around. I decide I kind of like that, so I pin it in place.
So I moved this over slightly off the cardboard to allow for a seam allowance, you can see there. And I just folded it over once and then sewed, so the raw edge of the cut fabric technically was still semi-exposed on the back side. Luckily, it did not cause any issues for the event. Now I'm filling in this corner. I saved all these scrap pieces from the other triangles for exactly this purpose. So it was fun to like figure out what piece kind of fit well, looked well, and then I'd put it in place. And here is our first triangle that I've made for you on video, complete. Next one, I want to use this hanky napkin. It has a beautiful detail in the corner here, but it's 90 degrees. As I mentioned, it doesn't fit down in the bottom. And I decided to kind of flip it around. What could I do with the flat side? And so I give this a try. I just use a pencil to trace the line up against the cardboard, but then when I cut it out, I leave a room for seam allowance. I just fill these two corners with some fabric and we're done. For this final triangle, I want to show how I maintained the kind of lacy edging while also getting the correct triangle shape. So here I'm using the same piece of napkin from the second triangle, but I am lining up that lacy edge and then cutting where the template is. For the side I've cut, I am going to see how much of the lacy edge I need and cut just the lacy edge and attach it to the triangle to get the other side.
Now I'm going to show you some of the steps that I use to sew these together. So the first one that I showed you that I put together is kind of the half doily one. And I'm going to start by stitching together the pieces together and finishing the edges last. So I'm going to start by stitching down here, here, and then the edges. The last one here, all I'm doing is just sewing the lacy part to the edge. So that's pretty simple. Here is the finished first one, the second one, and the third one. For the binding, I wasn't quite sure what I was gonna do. And my idea is to make it. So I picked up this white sheet from the Goodwill bins, I gave it a wash, It is a fitted sheet, so I'm gonna cut out the elastic. It does kind of have a pink spot. Maybe that's why it was donated, because there's nothing red in my wash. So I'm gonna cut the elastic out. Okay, we got it all cut, and I just ripped the corners, the seams for the fitted sheet. And we're at my ironing spot. I need to make an iron table, but it works. Iron apart flat, and I'm thinking of doing a 2-inch cut of fabric strips, because then that will allow me folds in half. That's 1 inch, and then fold the others ½ inches in. I think that should work. So I've got it folded up a few times here. I'm gonna cut off the kind of crazy cutting so I have a nice straight cutting. This edge, a nice straight edge. Okay, 2 inches. So we have some strips. I didn't cut a ton just in case I change my mind. And there are a few pieces that are not straight. That's what I get for kind of folding. So game plan will be cutting the larger sheet into smaller pieces so that I can ensure that everything's straight. But for kind of trying it out, figuring out how this is gonna work, I'm happy. So I have my strips. I'm going to iron them in half and then maybe half again. Trying to figure out the spacing of my triangles, and I think I'm gonna do 4 inches in between each triangle. I'm saying so like from 20 because my thing's broken, so 3. Oh, I can't do math. 30 inches is not 3 feet. Okay, Amber.
There are, in fact, 36 inches in 3 feet. I decided to go with the 4 inches in between each triangle. I did like how this looked. So I went ahead and pinned the triangles inside of the binding.
After all of that pinning and sewing, I ended up with almost 225, 50, 220, 50 feet of bunting. Ooh. So this box here shows some of the bunting. It was a lot and it looked so lovely. The garland bunting was used around the edge of the tent, which is where we had dinner, and it was also placed around some of the other structures and kind of at the entrance when people walked in. And so it just helped to give that whimsical feel. The wedding was lovely. It was a beautiful day. It just was a perfect day. enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. I'm kind of doing my comeback, which it's very slow. I have projects in the works, which I'm very excited to share with you. I'm Amber, and this has been a Foxgloves Handiwork.